on December 15th, 2023, I was diagnosed with invasive ductal carcinoma, which is breast cancer. It's actually the most common type of breast cancer. I can go through everything. I can handle anything. Just don't make me lose my hair. The breast cancer can make you gain weight in the breast cancer treatment. And my doctor had said to me before, when you start this, you are going to gain weight. And I thought to myself, everything is bad. What is good? I'm going to lose my hair. I'm going to gain weight. I'm going to be sick. I'm going to, have all these surgeries. Like, this is crazy.
Hi, Lauren. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's honestly an honor to have you here with me. I want to get into so much with you. How are you? How are you doing today?
I am great today, and thank you for having me. It's an honor for me to be on your podcast.
No, it's such. I still remember the first day I met you. I don't know if you remember or not, but I met you at a Rodial event. Rodial, that's how we say it. I hope I'm saying it
Rodial.
right. Rodial.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Rodial event. I met you at a Rodial event, and you were, I think, hosting a manifestation session on that. Mm-hmm. It was at the SLS. Mm-hmm. And I just remember the way you were speaking about manifestation then, and I was like, wow, she's so amazing. That's the first time I got to see you. Which then I started following you on Instagram. I seen how involved you were in the beauty space. Mm. Of course, you're the beauty editor as well for Cosmopolitan. And I want to just get everyone to get to know about you, your journey, how you entered the whole beauty world, and kind of take us from there.
Oh, thank you so much. So my journey into the beauty world was not what you would probably expect. I grew up with extremely strict parents. I mean, extremely strict parents. And actually, a lot of my Southeast Asian friends tell me that my parents sound like they were Southeast Asian parents. And they told me I could be basically an engineer or an engineer or an engineer. So I had no choice but to be an engineer when I went to university. And they really coached me into it. I knew I didn't want to be an engineer, but I went on to become a mechanical engineer. And so that's my bachelor's degree from Worcester Polytechnic Institute in Worcester, Massachusetts. And while I was in school, in all my free time, I would buy Cosmo, I would buy Allure magazine, I would buy Vogue, and I would just read every single word and every single issue over and over again. And I knew in my heart of hearts, I would have loved to have been a beauty journalist working in New York City or a news anchor or something to do in that sort of industry. But my parents were scary, and I said I just did every single thing they wanted me to do. And, I think life is like a GPS. So you can go so far off track, but you end up learning lessons, you become more empowered in who you are, and the universe always brings you back to where you're meant to be. So it wasn't until, I will also add in that I have a master's of science in nursing. So that was another deviation I took. I got that degree in Chicago from DePaul University right before we moved to Dubai. And when we moved to Dubai, I was pregnant with my daughter. So I was 11 weeks pregnant. We moved to this new country, whole new experience, and I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, which my husband fully supported. And so I had these 2 degrees that I didn't really want to have, and I knew I didn't want to do anything with them. And then I had this new baby, and one baby turned into 2 babies. And so for a long time, I was just doing the mommy scene in Dubai. But there was a part of me that was honestly a bit empty and depressed because I knew that I just had this potential in me for some sort of career. I knew I wanted to do something in beauty or something on camera. And what I was really lacking was the confidence to do it. And so I really muddled over it for years. And finally, one day, a girlfriend of mine said, we were watching this ridiculous, I think it was Shaun the Sheep movie at the Mercado Theater with our kids. And she said to me, just start an Instagram account. And, you're always our go-to for everything beauty. So I did. And I always, whenever I do anything, I try to do it as thorough as possible. So the Instagram account also became a website that became a YouTube channel. And, I started taking courses on how to make myself better. And a lot of courses actually on stage or camera presentation, because I had tons crippling self-doubt. So I did all that, and I was starting to grow this kind of career in Dubai out of nothing. And actually, one of my first big, I feel like it was a first big break, but there was a subscription box service. I'm not going to say the name of it because I don't want to get myself in trouble, but I applied to be one of their ambassadors. I had no idea what that meant at the time, but I had to make a video, introducing myself, which was scary, but I did it. And then I had to go to some interviews, and I ended up getting the ambassadorship. And I thought to myself, wow, recognition, maybe I'm onto something. It didn't last very long because I started to see a lot of red flags right away. And at one point, I was asked to promote a skin whitening cream. Now, I am the palest person in the world. I am so fair. And how could I ever tell anybody to whiten their skin? I'm so against that. And it goes against my morals. It goes against everything really I stand for. And what's the one thing I've always wanted? A deeper skin tone. I just burn in the sun. People always will say to me, are you, a ghost? And I would never do that in a million years. And I told the team as much, and I got fired. So I was really depressed after that because I felt like, I'm never going to amount to anything. And, I just feel so stuck. And I wish that instead of going to engineering school, I had spoken out to my parents and, went and did something that actually I was interested in. And I felt really low. And I feel like sometimes when we're at our lowest points, we can only go up. Mm-hmm. So I started to dive into other things. I went to the New York Film Academy one summer, the following summer, and I took a course in broadcast journalism, and I got certified in that. And it was during that summer that I went to see my aunt's psychic. And my aunt just raved about her psychic, and I said, okay, sure, I'll go see her. And when I went to go see her, she said to me, you're going to get a column in Cosmopolitan magazine. And at the time, and she said it's going to come in December. I saw her in July. It was 2018. And no, I'm sorry, it was 2019. And she said to me, in December, you're going to get that column. And I had just finished school at the New York Film Academy, and I thought, no, I don't want to be behind a desk. I want to be in front of the camera. Not thinking to myself, in Dubai, there's not very many opportunities for broadcast journalism, especially if you don't speak Arabic.
Yeah.
So I came back to Dubai, and sure enough, that following December, I get an email, and it's inviting me to the Cosmopolitan Beauty Awards. And I had never gotten an email before from ITP. I had never gotten an email about anything to do with Cosmopolitan. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, it's happening. Now, a couple years prior, when I had first started Instagramming, keep in mind I was very sheltered growing up. I had no idea that marketing and PR existed. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize when I started putting content out on Instagram, that these companies would contact me and want to send me free stuff or invite me to events. It was amazing. It was almost as if in The Wizard of Oz, you're in the black and white, and then you open the door and there's just lots of sparkles and color. Right. And so when I first started Instagramming, I went to every single thing I was invited to. I was just so excited about it. And one time I was invited to this restaurant that's since long closed, and every course they created at their restaurant involved figs. I don't even like figs, but I went to it anyways because I was invited. And so when I went to this dinner, I was a little late, got lost, blah, blah, blah. You know the story. You take one wrong turn and Dubai, it's a 20-minute extra on your journey. But when I got to the restaurant, I sat down. There was one seat open next to me. And a few minutes later, in came a woman named Millie Midwood, and she sat next to me. And so I introduced myself to her. We just chatted, and she was at the time, I believe, the digital editor for Harper's. Don't quote me on that, but she was working in the magazine industry. So I met her, and that was that. That was the point of me being at that dinner, because a couple years later, when I was invited to the Cosmo Beauty Awards, Millie came out on stage and introduced herself as the new editor-in-chief of Cosmo. And I thought to myself, I know her. So, and then I thought about what the psychic said, I'm going to get a column. So I went right up to her afterwards, congratulated her, and said, I should really be writing for the magazine, because I happen to know all about skincare and skincare ingredients. I'm so passionate about it. And she had been following me ever since we met at that dinner, and she said, oh yeah, that's a great idea. And then COVID hit. So my first article ended up going up in April of 2020. And the first piece I wrote was trending in their top 10 for a little while. And she messaged me and she said, write another. And so I started writing pieces and sending them in. And that slowly turned into me becoming the beauty editor of Cosmo. And that's how I got to where I am today.
That's amazing. I mean, your resilience through all of that. Also need your psychic's number, please. That's
She's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen her every time I go home, I will stop by and see her.
Absolutely.
Super talented woman.
But I mean, one thing I really liked about what you said there, because you do speak about manifestation a lot, which I'm going to get into. Sometimes people are in this belief that, I manifested something, so it's going to fall into my lap, right? Like, I'm just going to sit here and it's going to fall. But you went up to her and said, I should be writing for you.
Yeah.
That was given to you, and then you took that initiative. And so bold for someone that said self-doubt, struggled with self-esteem. What gave you that courage at that point to say, that's for me?
So a few things. Number one, I was very aware of the self-doubt that I had for years. And so I had started to work on it. And when I say work on it, I really mean work on it. I was doing lots of just online courses. I was doing some therapy. I was listening to different YouTube videos all the time. And I kind of think of it as maybe a piece of string that was in a knot, a tight knot, and I slowly started undoing that knot to straighten it out. And it worked. And it really helped with I took this, what was it? It was a presenting course. And I mean, when I was in nursing school, I was in this class with 25 girls. We were all together. It was our cohort. And I used to have to present in front of them. And I would get so nervous. I had a prescription for Klonopin, which knocks you out. And I used to take that before just getting up in front of 25 people. And it was all about, their judgments. What do they think of me? And do I look bad? And so much ridiculous things. But it was sort of, it was carried over from childhood and from probably things kids said to me, in grade school that just kind of became deeply embedded in my psyche. So I, really started to work through that in my 30s, and I completely eradicated it. Now I can get on a microphone and talk in front of however many people. I could talk in front of 100,000 people, and my heart won't even beat faster. I'm so confident now, and it's from all these courses and everything I did along the way. But when I saw Millie, I knew that it was fate. I knew that the universe was laying this open for me. And the thing is with manifestation that I think a lot of people might not realize is that when you want to manifest something, it's going to come to you, but you need to meet the universe halfway. So you have to go push through. Maybe at some point, Millie would have thought to herself, I should ask Lauren O'Connell to write a piece. Maybe she wouldn't have. I don't know. But I knew that if I just took that opportunity and went up there and went for it, it was probably going to work in my favor. Yeah. And if it didn't, at least I tried.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's beautiful. I love that. I want to take a little trip down memory lane for you, which was very recently. Given the fact that you've had such an inspiring journey, you've had a very recent journey that I think was one of the most difficult in your lives.
Yes.
If you want to just take us through that, please, and share what you've been through and how you've come to the other side.
Sure. So on December 15th, 2023, I was diagnosed with invasive ductal carcinoma, which is breast cancer. It's actually the most common type of breast cancer. And I had been sitting in my office early in December, and this thought just came into my mind, which was do a breast self-exam. So my curtains were closed, and I was sitting by my computer. My emails were open, and I just started to palpate on the top of my breast. And right away on my right breast, at the 12 o'clock mark, if you think of your breast as a clock, I just felt this really hard lump underneath. It felt huge, like the size of a walnut. And I thought to myself, am I imagining this? And so I decided to wait 30 minutes and to see if it would somehow go away. And maybe it was just kind of in my head. I wasn't worried about it, but I just thought, oh, let me just come back to it. 30 minutes later, it was still there. And I've always been very self-advocating about my health. So I just texted my doctor, because she and I WhatsApp, and I said, hey, I need to come in. I just want you to look at something. She said, come on in. And that quick appointment, which I really thought nothing of, turned into an ultrasound at the radiology department. And thank God in Dubai, you can just get these things done one after another. If it was in the US, I feel like I would have had to wait 4 weeks.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I went right over to radiology, and then the radiologist took a look, and he said, I'd like to do a biopsy. And I said, sure, no problem. So I came back a few days later, had the biopsy, didn't think too much of it, and then the results came back that it was actually breast cancer. And I was floored. I did not see this coming. It was such a curveball, because what I'm really doing with my life is creating my own beauty brand. And I was planning on launching it last year. So, as you can imagine, all these different thoughts were going on in my mind, and I thought, like, how could this be? And I feel like I pick up on signs a lot. Like, I'm very conscious.
Yeah.
I'm very aware.
And very intuitive as well, I'm getting.
Yes, super intuitive. Actually, I've always been this way. When I was a kid, my mom used to always call me a witch. And not in a bad way, but just I would do witchy things. I just, I knew the phone would ring before it would ring. I, was just always a bit psychic. And so I was really shocked, because I did not see this coming. And actually, when I found out, I was on a press trip, which was really traumatic. I found out on a bus filled with just influencers and journalists, and it was loud, and there was a lot of music going on, and I had been on this 4-hour bus ride already in Azerbaijan. I was exhausted. And then I got the text message, and I said to my doctor, if the results come back quick, just let me know. And I really thought they were going to come back, negative. I thought maybe it was just hard tissue or a cyst or something like that. And she wrote to me, my love. And right away, I knew it was breast cancer. And then she wrote, it is breast cancer. And I thought, and it was as if there was so much commotion around me. And it was as if everything went dark and everything went silent and super slow motion. And I just thought to myself, how can this be? Yeah. And I was, at the same time, I was around all these people I didn't know. I just got the worst news of my life. And it was a terrible setting for it. So essentially, I just U-turned, and I went back to Dubai. And I texted my husband when I was staying in the hotel overnight, because I had to take a morning flight. And he said to me, no matter what happens, I'm here for you. I'm supporting you. We're going to get through this together. And all those things you want to read, he said to me. And I was feeling angry, confused, upset, sad, devastated, like instantly depressed, anxious, all those emotions and feelings at once. But I also knew deep down there was like this little ball of golden light, and it was saying to me, this is part of your life plan. It's all going to make sense. It's all going to work out. You will understand later on.
Yeah.
And so I really knew that. I believed that. And I went back to Dubai and I just started a series of tests and doctor's appointments. I traded my social life for the hospital.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a huge, I was always in the hospital. And they were trying to figure out exactly, what was going on with me. There was some funny stuff happening where the biopsies in my lymph nodes. So the first lymph node we have in our underarm is called the sentinel lymph node. And they check that to see if the cancer has gone there, if the cancer has spread. That's how, when they have the different stages and grades and all that stuff, that comes into play. And I had 2 biopsies on that site, and both came back negative, which was great news. If you don't have it in your lymph node, you most likely don't need chemotherapy. So I was super happy about that. And I'm thinking to myself the whole time, well, how am I going to get my brand up, and how is this going to set me back? And, I'm still trying to plan and navigate for this brand launch. And so I have to say, Dubai is incredible because I had this team, I think it was 32 doctors, that were literally in a room fighting about my case and arguing about my case and what should be done and not done, because the lymph nodes were coming back negative, but when I had this particular scan, it was lighting up as if there was cancer there. So they ended up having me do surgery first, and I had a lumpectomy. So I had the option of a lumpectomy or a mastectomy.
Okay.
And my oncologist and my breast surgeon both said to me, with all the research that we have now, it shows that if you have a mastectomy, your outcome is not any better than having a lumpectomy for my particular type of breast cancer.
Okay.
Breast cancer is almost like autism in the sense that it's just a spectrum. There are so many different types of breast cancers. There are different stages of breast cancers. There's different treatments. There's tons of different types of chemotherapies. So it's not a one-size-fits-all, which I never knew. It's actually, everybody has a different path with it, depending on how it presents. So I had that first surgery. It was a lumpectomy. And I was nervous about it. I've never had a surgery before like this. And, I felt like my life was kind of falling apart. And I was trying to, just keep everything as intact as I could, and just trying to work through all the emotions I was feeling with this whole breast cancer journey. And what it really was different layers of surrendering to it. And after that first surgery, I was in the recovery room, and my surgeon came up to me and she said, "Lauren, I want you to know there's been a complication." And I just woke up and I was so groggy, and she said, "Your surgery went an extra 3 hours." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "We found cancer in your lymph node." And I was like, oh no, because I knew right away that meant I was going to need the chemotherapy. And I have 2 brothers. One of my brothers had cancer as a kid, and he went through chemo and radiation. So I remember seeing that firsthand as his big sister. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't want to lose my hair. I don't want to be sick. I don't want to be frail and weak. I don't want my body to have to go through all this. How can this be happening? I was really mad at my spirit team. I was mad at my soul. I was mad at, everything, because I'm mad at the universe. How can this be happening? So I was really just completely messed up from all of that anesthesia that was in my body. My kids and my husband, apparently he had been really concerned. He was going back and forth he was waiting for me and just wondering what's going on with his wife. And he kept asking the reception or the nurse's station, and they said, no, she's okay, but it's just taking longer. So after I went through the surgery, and when I was in the healing process, which was difficult, I had to sit up and sleep sitting up, and I was so uncomfortable. I have a huge scar in my armpit area, and it was painful, and I'm still feeling the effects of it today. After I went through all that, they said to me, okay, you're going to need chemo, and you're going to need radiation. This is our recommendation to you. Now, it's kind of funny because in the spiritual community, there's a lot of talk about, don't go for modern Western medicine, don't
Right.
do all this stuff. And I have some spiritual friends that were actually saying this sort of thing to me. And then I, was hearing from the other side, oh, you have to do Western medicine, and this is the way forward, and this is the only way it's going to be cured. So I thought to myself, the one person I really trust in all of this is myself. And it's my intuition that I trust the most. My intuition is telling me, do the chemo, do the radiation, do everything the oncologist is saying. And so I did. And, I got a lot of flack from that, from certain people, and who thought I was crazy. But I just knew that I was meant to go down this path. And I do believe in Western medicine.
Yeah.
And I also believe in alternative medicine. I think meditation can be a medicine. And so I did that as well.
Yeah.
But I decided to go through the chemo and radiation, and I ended up having a second surgery actually before that. They wanted to take out some more tissue because the 32 doctors or however many it was were arguing about the margins on one of the tissue samples, and they felt that there's a standard of how much tissue needs to be clear in order to say that the cancer cells have been successfully removed. So I had to go in for another surgery, which felt like another setback, another step to surrendering. And then after the 2 surgeries, I was ready to rock and roll. So we started the chemotherapy, and I was actually given the toughest type of chemotherapy that exists for breast cancer treatment. It's known as the red devil. And that's because it's red in color and the side effects are so brutal. And I remember sitting there in the hospital bed, and I actually put a video on it on my Instagram recently, and I could just see the red medicine coming down the tube, and it was getting ready to enter into my body. And you can see I have a scar here. I had something called a portacath, and that's what the chemotherapy went through. And actually, that was the 3rd surgery I had because they knocked me out for that one too. So by the mid-February of last year, I had already gone under general anesthesia 3 times, which that also takes such a toll on the body.
Yep.
So I started the chemotherapy. We tried cold capping, and cold capping essentially freezes your head in order to stop the blood flow from going to the follicles to prevent your hair from falling out. And I was told that because I was taking the really tough chemo, I would have a 50% chance of it working. But the way I think is, okay, that means it's a 50% chance that it could possibly work. I'm going to go for it. And it was tough. I mean, it was negative 50 degrees Celsius, this helmet type hat thing they put on me. It was so tight and it was so cold. I felt like my head was just stuck in a block of ice. It made me feel incredibly nauseous. And it was tough. The ice had to be changed out every 15 minutes. And so there was a man that came and did it for me. He was absolutely lovely. And I was really hoping that the cold capping would work. I thought to myself, and I was still trying to bargain. This was still not me surrendering to everything, but I can go through everything. I can handle anything. Just don't make me lose my hair, because I really want to bounce back. And 3 weeks after my first round of the Red Devil, I lost 80% of my hair in 2 days.
Wow.
And I remember waking up and just feeling like I had this rat's nest in my hair. And what had happened was so much of my hair had detached from my head and it was stuck inside. It was like a teasing, but I mean the most extreme teasing you could ever see. And it was stuck just in my hair. So I carefully brushed it out the way they told me to do. And after that first brushing, I could see my scalp just, when I went like this with my hair. And I thought to myself, oh no, I'm losing my hair. And then, like I said, by the end of 48 hours, I had barely any hair left. So I said to myself, okay, I'm going to stop the cold capping and we're going to have to shave my head. Now, my kids this whole time, I've always been really honest with my kids about everything and anything. I have a policy. They can talk to me about anything they want, ask me any question. There's no judgment. and I'm here to help guide them through life. That's my sort of thoughts on parenting. And the same thing was with the cancer. They can ask me anything, and they did. And I knew that them seeing me without hair was going to be extremely traumatizing. So I felt that if they helped me shave my head and they were part of the process, maybe it would help to soften the blow a bit. So in the kitchen, we shaved my head. They all took turns doing it. And then I was bald. And actually, I found out that I had a pretty nicely shaped head. And I thanked my mom and dad for that, because I realized they didn't put me down a lot as a baby. And they said that's because I was always screaming. So it worked out in my favor. But all of a sudden, I looked in the mirror and I saw a bald version of me, something I never, ever thought I would see. And it was sobering. It was really tough to see it. But I, thought to myself, it's all going to make sense. Like, there's something bigger going on here. And I also had decided that I wasn't going to put my diagnosis on social media. And that was actually, that was suggested to me by a good friend of mine. Her name is Maria Leonard. She's a spiritual coach in Dubai.
Yes, I know Maria.
Oh, you know Maria?
Yes.
She's incredible. And she said to me, keep it to yourself. Don't put it out there. You don't want to have energy leaks, and you don't want people really in your business. It's going to affect you spiritually. And that's going to then affect you emotionally, mentally, and physically. And when she said that to me, I just knew she was right. My intuition said, like, she's spot on. Follow Maria's advice. And so I did. And I kept everything off social media. I only told close friends and my family members. And so not many people knew what I was going through. People had no idea that I was bald and going around Dubai and going in and out of the hospital and getting all these treatments done. And I decided that what I was going to do was, after chemotherapy was over, I was going to come out with a story. And I wanted it to be very impactful. And so I decided to do it through Cosmo. And the Cosmo team was incredible. And they said, yes, let's do it through Cosmo. And so I had sort of a coming out article. And going through chemo was extremely challenging and tough.
Gotcha.
It knocked me off my feet. I was so sick. I had no energy. I remember one time I was in the shower. It was after one of the Red Devil infusions. I had 4 total. And I just sat down in the shower because I was too weak to stand up. And I remember sitting there and thinking to myself, I don't have the energy or strength to stand back up and get myself out of the shower. And so I crawled out, because that's all I could do. And, then I got myself up, I put on clothes, and I went right into bed. And I thought to myself, it's amazing that I was able to just do that. I mean, I cannot even begin to tell you what a toll it took on my body. I lost all my muscle definition, all my strength. And the one thing about chemo too, with breast cancer, and there are many different types of chemos, but on the particular type of chemo I had, it does something to, I don't know exactly what it is, and I should know the science behind it because it sounds more intelligent when I talk about it, but essentially it makes you gain weight. And a lot of people think with cancer treatments you lose weight, and when I was at the oncology office, I saw lots of very thin people, but the breast cancer can make you gain weight, and the breast cancer treatment. And my doctor had said to me before, when you start this, you are going to gain weight. And I thought to myself, everything is bad. What is good? I'm going to lose my hair. I'm going to gain weight. I'm going to be sick. I'm going to, have all these surgeries. Like, this is crazy. And just to not see it coming, it was such a curveball. And, I've always been very particular about my weight. And growing up I was born in 1982. I'm 42 years old now, but growing up in that heroin chic era, reading all the magazines, they're always telling me to diet, get abs in 10 days, and they're pushing this stuff out to young teens and preteens. This stuff has always been ingrained in me. So I don't want to gain weight. And don't make me gain weight and through all this, I don't want to go through that. Sure enough, I gained 15 kgs over the course of 6 months. It was like a pregnancy, but there was no prize at the end. There was no beautiful baby to be holding. So I, was laying in bed all the time. I was hungry. I thought to myself, I'm not starving myself. I'm just going to eat when I want to eat, and I'm going to eat what I want to eat. With everything I'm going through, I'm going to eat whatever I want to eat. So
absolutely.
I did. And, I just packed on the pounds. And at one point, I was completely bald. Like, everything had fallen out. No eyebrows, no eyelashes. They put me on so much steroids that I just had this moon face, plus the 15 kgs I had put on. And my skin was full of acne from the steroids. My skin was bright red. It was the second type of chemo I had is actually from this plant that Native Americans, apparently, according to my oncologist, used to use on the ends of their bows, or the arrows, I'm sorry. And they would, when they shot an animal, it affect their nervous system, and it would contribute to the animal dying. And so my hands and my feet were always tingly, and I had to keep them in ice. And this was part of the chemotherapy. The medication was called paclitaxel. And the paclitaxel was intense as well. It put me into menopause. And I, was dealing with all of these side effects and complications. And I looked at myself in the mirror, and, I feel like I used to be so beautiful. And now I was looking at myself, and it was like everything had been stripped away. And I said, but can I still see my beauty? And I could. And, that was a really powerful realization for me, because it challenged me in a way that I've never been challenged before. I always kind of felt like I got by because I, was a reasonably attractive woman, and, it worked in my favor. And it was like everything had been stripped from me on the outside. Everything had changed on the inside. I was trying to launch this beauty brand. I had gotten through the self-doubt that, I really was working on myself for so long. It felt like a punishment. But I still could see my beauty. And, for me, that was very, that was almost like a turning point. I think, it kind of deepened my self-appreciation in a way that, to a level I didn't know existed. And, that was a huge lesson during the chemo. And it's something that I've, realized, many women go through this. And I don't know, how conscious everyone is, how aware they are. And, I hope that when I put my content out there, I know it does make people feel better, because I get tons of DMs from women going through breast cancer, or those who have siblings, or, someone in their life going through it. And they say, when I look at your content, I feel so inspired and empowered. Because the thing is that after you go through the chemo, the weight comes off, the steroids wear off, skin goes back to normal, especially when you know skincare ingredients, skin goes back to normal. Hair starts to grow back, and you kind of come back to, you come to a new normal, but it's close to maybe your baseline of where you were before. But you gain so much, because you just gain this whole new self-respect and deep introspection. And, for me, breast cancer just created all this white space in my life. And I was like a hamster on a wheel before. I was just grinding, and I love working. I love being busy. I love doing a million things at once. And my calendar went from having every hour, something happening, to just completely open. And I had all this time to myself. And it was during that time that I did just so much spiritual work and so much work on myself. And I really got to meet myself in a way that I couldn't before, because I just didn't have the time.
Yeah.
And I used that time to really just, think about, who do I have in my life? Do I have the right people in my life? who needs to leave my life, how are my boundaries, what are my boundaries, are they strong, where are they weak? And, I started therapy, and I just took it as a gift from the universe all this time to really prep myself for the next big thing I was going to do in my life, which was to launch my beauty brand.
Yeah.
So it ended up being the best gift I could ever receive.
Absolutely. I'm just in awe. Like,
Oh,
I'm
thank you.
so in awe. You are incredible. You're
thank
really,
you.
really incredible. I'm going to try to hold myself together through this because, wow.
Oh,
I mean,
thanks.
this is why I wanted to share this story from the moment I met you
Yeah.
at that day, at that event, because I was like, it's one thing to go through breast cancer, but being where you were, for your love for beauty and all of that, like you said, being stripped away from you,
Yeah.
that was incredible. But you've handled all of it. I can feel the pain. I can feel the
Yeah.
pain that you felt, but I can see that you've also grown grace and compassion for yourself along the way.
Definitely.
Was that tough? Because I did remember seeing a post about you really talking openly about the weight gain and
Yeah.
talking about the hair loss. Was that a difficult moment for you, really accepting those two aspects?
Oh, it was so difficult. And honestly, it's funny, everything comes full circle. I really attribute my views on weight and body image and all this stuff to when I was a young girl reading, the same magazines that I write for now, and things were different back then. And, there was one standard of beauty. There was, that everyone was trying to get to, and it was kind of unattainable. Everything was Kate Moss. And I remember in high school, I went to an all-girls high school, and, some of the girls were really skinny and some of them weren't. And I was somewhere in the middle. Looking back on it, I was thin, but by the standards back then, I was average. And, all that stuff just really messes with your mind. I remember being in third grade going to a physical, like just with my doctor or nurse practitioner, and I was with my mom, and I said to the doctor, I want to lose weight. And the doctor looked at my mom and said to her, can you believe that kids are saying that these days, how young she is? And she said to me, well, you have to stop eating fast food. And I was like, wait, what? That's not happening. I'm a kid. So, and the thing is, I didn't really want to lose weight. I just thought that I should want to lose weight because that's what was always being shoved down my throat, so to speak. That's what we were always being told.
Yeah.
And I enjoy being thin. I've always liked it. It serves me well. I think that, when you're thin, the world treats you better, unfortunately. But I will say that this is a little bit off topic, but things are certainly changing. In Cosmo Middle East, you will never see anything about weight loss. You'll never see anything about, having one particular body type as being the goals. There's such a shift, and it's incredible, and it's such a breath of relief. I have a 15-year-old daughter. She has never once said to me, Mom, I want to lose weight. These are not topics she thinks about because it's not being sent, it's not, the media isn't pushing it on her. Instead kids these days, like it's all about embracing your figure, embracing your body. And if anything, it's about building muscle.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Absolutely.
That's great.
Absolutely.
But I'm still back in the 1990s. There are things that are programmed into my DNA. So when I was going through the weight gain, I was really upset about it because I just didn't want to have to go through, I didn't want to come out of it and then have another crisis, so to speak, to have to deal with. But then as the weight started coming on, I just thought to myself, whatever, I'll deal with it when I'm done. And actually, on the last day of chemotherapy, I decided to go out with a bang. And I got permission from the nurses to do this. And they were like, yeah, it's fine. I wanted to have a party. So I had a party. It was called By B being a specific word I'm not going to say, but you can imagine what the B is. And I had balloons. I mean, I made a playlist. I had a big cake made with pink boxing gloves. I had bought myself this pink dress off Revolve, and I bought it in a size I've never bought before because, to accommodate my larger figure. I mean, I decorated my IV pole. I invited about 15 or 16 friends, and I had Mardi Gras beads. I dressed the nurses up, and I mean, I went all out. It was booming, and it was so fun. One of my girlfriends said to me at the end, or she didn't say it to me, I heard her actually saying it to someone else. She's like, "This is one of the best parties I've ever been to." It was such a great party. And my husband had actually said to the cold capper, because he was there, still cold capping other people. I had stopped because it didn't work for me. But he said to him, "Does everyone do this on their last day?" And the cold capper looked at him and said, "Only your wife." And the nurses were coming in. They're like, "We've never seen anything like this before." And I mean, I turned it into a pink party. It was amazing. And I mean, I had it catered and everything. My daughter was there, and she brought a friend, and I had a photographer.
Oh,
I mean,
that's
I went
amazing.
all out. And when it came time to ring the bell, I went up to the bell, and I had been watching, since I had a lot of downtime, I binged Selling Sunset.
Oh, yeah.
Which is the Netflix show, and they have a big bell that they ring every time they sell a house. So there's like the very humble hospital bell that I walked by every single session. I had a total of 16, and I always thought to myself, I can't wait to ring that bell. And it was my time. The photographer was set up. I had bought the It's a Girl party poppers, so pink would come out. And so I gave out the party poppers. My husband's a fire protection engineer. So he was getting nervous because it said on the party popper to only pop it outside, not inside. And I said, "You know what? This should be one of those situations where we just do it and ask for forgiveness later." I said, "Because I want those party poppers popped." And so everyone was there, and it came time for me to ring the bell, and I rang it so hard, the bell fell off the wall.
Oh my God.
And I ended up holding it, and I just kept ringing it, and everyone was screaming and cheering and everything. My daughter was crying like crazy, but she was laughing so hard. She's like, "Mom, only you." And I said to the nurse, "Has this ever happened before?" And she's like, "Oh, yeah." And my son said to me later on, he's like, "Mom, she was just trying to make you feel better. No one's ever broken their bell." And actually, Love in Dubai ended up picking up the story and posting it because I had put it onto a reel. So then I came out with the story and everything through Cosmo of what I had been through. And, I had bought myself a wig thinking, "Oh my gosh, I'm just going to wear a wig and, I don't want to be bald." And the wig was so expensive. I could have bought either 2 really nice pairs of shoes or 1 really nice bag.
Yeah.
It was an expensive wig.
Wow.
And, when I wore the wig, I wore it out a few times when I was going through chemo, and it just didn't feel like me. And I felt like I wasn't honoring what I was really going through. And, I had a lot of mixed feelings about this wig. The wig represented something to me that was so much more than a wig. It was kind of a covering. And I didn't want to cover. I wanted to just be bold and be out there and be like, "Hey, this is what I'm going through. And this is something 1 in 8 women go through." Yeah. And I've heard in Dubai it's 1 in 3.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
So, I don't want to cover this up. And I really was going back and forth about the wig. And for a while I wore like the beanies and stuff because actually it gets really drafty up there when you don't have hair. It's surprising.
Oh my God.
I wonder, when I see bald men walking around, I don't know if they realize how cold it actually is.
Do you know what? My partner's bald, and he always complains about it being cold. So this makes a lot of sense.
Yes, it is so cold. I would sleep with a hat on. I always had a hat on. Oh my gosh. So, but I was really going back and forth about this wig. And then I decided, you know what, no more wig. I'm going bald. And actually I did that. I met a friend for lunch at Zuma, of all places. And I showed up bald. And he's actually bald. So I said, we're going to be twinning. And, that was kind of the first day where I went out to something that was super fancy and a place that's kind of a seen and be seen, bougie type, beautiful restaurant that I've gone to many times, completely glammed out. And I went to the restaurant bald. And, I felt good. I felt authentic. And authenticity is one of my core values.
Yeah.
So I really struggle with things that aren't authentic. And I felt like for me, I was just being very authentic to what I was going through and really honoring my journey in a way that felt very spiritual.
Yeah.
So, and over the months, like I said, that surrendering was a big, that's like a key word to the whole process for me. And I felt like once more I surrendered to, where I was at in my life by really just going out bald. And it felt great. It felt really good. And slowly but surely my hair started growing in, which was interesting because I liked the way I looked bald better than I did with a little bit of hair.
Really?
Yeah, I did. Because I felt like when I was bald, at least it was because of the chemo and it was not a choice. And it just felt different. Going around with my sort of a buzz cut at first, it was okay, but it just was not a hairstyle I would ever choose for myself.
Yeah.
And so the hair growing back has been, I've had a lot of ups and downs with it. Because now I feel so bad for saying this, but a little backstory. When I was a kid, I was probably in about 4th grade, maybe, 8, 9, 10 years old. And I came home from school one day. I would always walk home from school. And my mom was in the kitchen. And she had always had bleach blonde, shoulder-length hair. And she had a haircut much like the one I have right now. And I remember thinking she looked like a man. She looked so bad. I was embarrassed. She was my Girl Scout leader. Of our troop. I didn't want my friends to see her. I couldn't believe my mom did this to herself. I felt like she took away her femininity, and it just looked awful on her. And I remember her smiling, being like, "What do you guys think?" And I just got this overwhelming urge to vomit. And I always tell her this story, and she's like, "Thanks a lot, Lauren. Thanks a lot." But, I felt like that was the beginning of the end for her at that time. And I remember always seeing my mom struggle with her weight and, all the stuff she went through. And I felt like the hair just symbolized her giving up. Like she gave up. And, back in the U.S., there's always like these jokes about women letting themselves go. And to me, she let herself go when she cut her hair. I always felt like that as a child and a teen. Now I don't, but back then I do. And once again, it's something that was kind of ingrained into my psyche. So now I feel like with this hair, to me, it's like a letting it go hairstyle. And, people tell me, "Oh, I really like the short hair, the pixie cut on you." And there are times when I see it and I feel like, okay, I'm having my Twiggy moment or like a Halle Berry moment or something. And it is easy. I mean, your hair looks stunning right now. I can guarantee you, whatever time you put into your hair this morning, I put in like 1/100th. And so I like that aspect of it. It's really nice. It's just wash and go. But it's just not me. It's not the hair I would choose for myself. And I just don't feel like it's I'm just not a pixie cut girl. Yeah. So I'm struggling with the hair growth, and it's something that, I'm learning to accept as part of the process and the journey. But do I like my hair short? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're rocking it really well.
Oh, thank you.
You're rocking it really, really well.
Thanks.
And Lauren, thank you again for sharing that, because I think it's so crucial with how far you've come.
Yeah.
Something I really want us to also talk about is, like you said, there's 1 in 3 women. Like, I'm in shock with that number, and I know there's going to be women here listening. I have clients from all over the world that are going to be listening to this. And if someone's listening to this that is looking for that ray of hope, because they too are probably going to go through chemo or not feeling confident in their body, the weight gain or things of that sort, what is a couple tips of advice or tips that you would give them, please?
So I feel like I need to trademark this, or I'm going to write a book. And I feel like this should be the book title, but it's too long. But what it is there is so much life to live after diagnosis.
Wow.
And there really is. And it's actually a better life. And it's a life where you will never, ever, ever say yes again to something you don't want to do. Where you have literally come in contact with the scariest thing and nothing will scare you. After going through breast cancer, nothing can scare me. I'm not afraid of anything anymore. I mean, I feel like I knocked on death's door and I, I put something actually on my Instagram account. It was something about the devil whispered to me, I'm this is like breast cancer is going to be the storm or something. And then I looked at the devil and I said, I am the storm. And you really do become the storm. You just become this incredibly strong, resilient, powerful version of yourself that you may not have realized was there if you want to.
Yeah.
There are a lot of women who have come to me and they said, I haven't been able to overcome this. Like, I'm still stuck in it mentally, emotionally. And they're like, you're a force of nature. And I think it's just my mindset and it's who I am as a person. But you really can use this breast cancer if you do happen to be diagnosed, which I hope no one ever is again, but I know that's not the reality of the situation. But you can use it to just become the most empowering event in your life. And, there's things that will always be different. I am considered postmenopausal now. I will always be in menopause for the rest of my life, and I'm 42. And that's because I had hormone-positive breast cancer. So estrogen, which is responsible for keeping us, so young and beautiful and our skin nice and elastic and plump and everything, I can never have estrogen in my body again. So I take a pill every day and I'm taking shots to help keep me that way. Because if the estrogen starts coming around and there happens to be a rogue cancer cell, and that cancer cell eats that estrogen, it can start to grow. And then that's when you can have a reoccurrence. So, there is so much life to live after diagnosis. I'm living proof of that.
Yeah.
And, it doesn't have to be the end. It's actually the start of a beautiful new beginning. And a start for you to, it's a way for you to really be able to script out the life you want to live and who you want to be for for your life post-cancer. And for those with stage 4 cancer, and it's not curable, but it's treatable. And there are women who go on to live very long, full, happy, healthy lives that do have stage 4 breast cancer. So, times have changed, medications have changed, they're tough. It's a tough journey, but it's one that you're able to get through it. And it's a great time to really tap into your spirituality, your intuition, to really do that meditation, that self-work. So when you come out of it, you can really just come out glowing and just step into this new version and this new life that you're going to have.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much. What's next? I heard a book. I heard skincare brand. I heard beauty brand.
Yes.
Well, what else? And where can people find you and all of these amazing things that you're coming out with?
Yeah, so there's a lot. I have so many plans. So I am launching my beauty brand this year. I'm coming out with one product first. And this is all self-funded. So I'm going to come out with one product. It's amazing. I could tell you that as a beauty editor and a beauty blogger, this has never come across my desk. This has never been sent to me. This is something that's brand new.
Oh, I'm excited.
Every woman is going to love this product and think to themselves, how did I not have this before? It's going to rock the beauty world. I know there's going to be, the first 18 months is going to be a lot of grinding, just to get it out there and get word out there and all that. But I know that this brand is going to take off. And the whole theming behind the brand has never been done before. It's completely novel. It's new. I think it's genius. And actually, I was going to launch a different product as my first product. And then last year when I was going through chemo, I thought to myself, you know what? My intuition is telling me to launch this other one instead, the one that's completely out there and different. And so I created the formula. It's custom made. I mean, I'm working with a lab in France, but I'm a skincare ingredient freak. So it is just the best of the best of the best. And the lab is so impressed. They're like, we've never had this before.
Can't wait.
And I went through probably 30 to 40 iterations of the formula till I found the one that was perfect. And I've had lots of very truthful and discerning friends who are very much into their skincare try it out, and everyone just across the board loved it. There was no tweaks I need to make I needed to make to the formula. I'm working so hard behind the scenes on this.
That's
I'm not
amazing.
showing too much on my Instagram just yet. Also, I'm just so yappy, as my son says. He's like, you and my sister are always yapping. But, I just don't want to like give it away too soon. So it's going to probably come out September, October. And that's
Okay.
only because, and this is something like, when you walk into Sephora, you just see all these beautiful products and you think that they've just magically appeared, but there is so much coordination. There's so much that goes on behind the scenes. It's wild. So to get everything done, with the supplier, the manufacturer, the shipping, the everything, I'm going to receive the product, I think, around the beginning of June. And I just don't want to launch my brand in the summer because
Yeah.
I know that is not the right time.
Absolutely.
So I'm looking at kind of a mid-September, early October launch. I think that just makes the most sense. So that's when that will be coming out. I just have this book inside me that I know I'm going to get inspiration, and I'm a big, this is the time to write it. So when that happens, I'll write it. I actually do have an ebook. It's called Manifest by Like Lauren. Manifest Like Lauren. It's on my website. And, when I first got diagnosed with the breast cancer, I was really embarrassed about that book because I thought to myself, are people going to think I manifested breast cancer? And, why would anyone want to manifest like Lauren? But actually, throughout my whole breast cancer journey, I was manifesting like crazy. And I was bringing the most incredible medical team and offers, and I was still making money doing these little side jobs, and I was just a manifesting queen. I manifested the best medical team I could ever ask for, and actually I got a really interesting sign from the universe. I know I'm going a little bit off topic here, but when everything was happening and I found out I was going to need surgery and everything was new, the hospital said to me, well, we have an excellent breast cancer surgeon, and this is who we recommend you go see. And her name was Dr. Veronica, which is so funny because my daughter is named Veronica, and it's such a rare name. And I did that intentionally because when I was growing up, in my class, there was always 5 Laurens. Everyone was named Lauren. So I wanted my daughter just to have her own name, and I purposely found one that wasn't in the top 200. And so I thought that was really funny that my doctor was named Veronica, and she was surprised I had a Veronica because she said no one ever has my name. So, I felt like that was a little wink from the universe of like trust, just trust. So I have a book in me that's going to be coming out probably in the next 2-3 years. And I just really want to share everything I've gone through and have it just be something that reflects me, which is, I think, resilient, strong, powerful, and hopefully going to be inspiring and comforting to women and their family members who are going through the same thing. And I love public speaking. I have been thinking to myself, I need to get into this more. I need to break into it, which I'll do. I'll manifest that somehow. And then, breast cancer taught me too to really reevaluate where I was prioritizing my time. And so now I love saying no.
Yeah, oh,
And-
I love me too.
And, most of the time I'm at home with my kids and my husband and my dog. And, Friday nights used to be about going out into Dubai and, going to some great place and having a beautiful Instagrammable type night. And now my Friday nights are at home watching a movie on the computer with my daughter. We're in bed. We have Deliveroo. And we are just, living our best lives. And that's exactly where I want to be.
I love that. Thank
Yeah.
you, Lauren.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much for sharing your beautiful story,
Oh, my pleasure.
for knowing where everyone can find you. It is so, so inspirational to see where you've come from. You were meant to be an engineer,
I
and to
know.
where you are right now. This is phenomenal. But I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
It's my absolute pleasure. Thank you.
It's been a joy. Thank you.